Guess what, guys? Plants don't need drainage holes. Come at me, bro. Whew, all right. Welcome back, everyone. I hope you're doing all right. Today, I wanted to talk about something that I get a lot of questions about. Usually when I post a photo on Instagram or on Facebook, I'll get people commenting, asking, Jake, how are you growing plants in mason jars? And I'm going to explain to you why I do that. I'm sorry, sir. So if you move your eyes down, you're going to notice that all of my plants are in mason jars, food containers, vases, transparent containers where I can see the roots, I can see what's going on, and there's no drainage. Now, usually when new plant parents get into the hobby, they get a lot of people telling them, oh, you need to have drainage holes. You know, people usually will get like a decorative pot, they'll put their plant in, and their plant will die, and then they'll be like, what happened to my plant? And then somebody tells them, well, you didn't have drainage holes. All plants need drainage holes. And I am here to say something a little controversial, but that's not entirely true. Plants don't need drainage holes. What they need is drainage. Whether a plant likes to be moist, whether a plant likes to stay dry, whether a plant likes to have a moist-dry cycle, whether a plant likes to sit in water, whether a plant grows in a bog, whether a plant grows in the desert. All plants like drainage, but they don't necessarily need drainage holes. So all of the containers in front of you do have drainage, even though they don't have drainage holes. This is a modified semi-hydroponic method, which basically means that the plants are being watered via a reservoir at the bottom of the pot. So water will sit on the bottom of these containers, the water will get wicked up through capillary action, and the leca, the moss, or whatever medium that is being used, that will absorb the moisture from the reservoir at the bottom and hydrate the roots. Bada bing, bada boom. I actually have a couple of different methods here I'm showing you, but the main one that I use is leca on the bottom, sphagnum moss on top for the roots. The reason I use sphagnum moss is because I find it to be a perfect balance for aeration and humidity for the roots. The roots are the make or break of the plant, guys. It doesn't matter how many leaves a plant has, it doesn't matter how many flowers it has, it doesn't matter how many aerial roots it has. What matters is the root system. That is essentially how you can rehab a plant back to full health. The root system always comes first. So if the root system is starting to dry out and it doesn't want to dry out, if it's a plant that likes humidity, that dehydration in the roots will then reflect in the leaves, and you're going to see brown spots, you're going to see leaves totally dry up and turn into Doritos. But not the kind you can eat. This method of sphagnum moss on top and leca on the bottom works wonders for airoids. Anyone out there who collects airoids, it works so well. I cannot recommend it enough. I find that the airoids, and any plants that I have in general, that have drainage holes at the bottom, they dry out so much faster. And the plants that are in drainage pots do not do nearly as well as the ones that are in these no drainage containers. The reason why I've strayed away from soil, from organic medium, from using airoid mixes and things like that is because I don't really know when the plant wants to be watered. Some plants like to have a wet-dry cycle, like I said. Some plants like to consistently be moist. Some plants like to dry out and stay dry for quite a long time. This can be applied to any genus, any family of plants that you have in your collection. Like, for example, I have a few Philodendron gloriosum, and they are in an airoid mix. They're actually not in moss. I find that they do better in soil because in nature they're actually a terrestrial plant. They're not epiphytic. I'm actually looking at my gigantic gloriosum over on this side. That's why I'm looking over here. I always have to be on top of their watering because they dry out so quickly, and when plants, especially gloriosums, when they dry out, they don't like it. I have not tried this method with dirt though, so I haven't really converted any of them to this method using dirt, so I can't really give any input on that. That is something that I still have to test out. Dirt, even an airoid mix that's super chunky, it's so much more compact than moss, than leca, than perlite, and I'm just a little bit worried about fungal diseases and like the soil just being too wet, whereas sphagnum moss, leca, it's able to get hydrated, but it's also able to have a lot of aeration within all of that moisture. Does that make sense? And it's really easy to eye dehydrated moss because it will actually lighten in color. If you feel it, it will feel very flaky and crispy and crumbly. So usually when the top layer of moss gets dehydrated, I know it's time to rewater. All of the plants that you see here, with the exception of the warquianum, which we'll get to her in a second, we'll get to this bitch in a second, they're all growing in 29% humidity. Can you guys even see that? I do not live in a tropical environment. I live in the Northeast. We're not known for having high humidity unless it rains. But yes, as I was saying, all of these plants, which are plants that are from tropical climates, they're all from rainforests, from mostly South America, the Amazon, where the earth is very wet, but there's a lot of airflow, there's wind. A lot of these plants will climb up trees or up rocks and cliffs. The earth, perfect drainage when it comes to the earth. There's never sitting water unless you're in like a bog or something. These are plants that thrive in both humidity, high moisture levels, but also aeration. And I find that particularly when it comes to anthuriums, aeration is like maybe even more crucial than humidity. Yeah, because you know what? There were a lot of people that were telling me that these anthuriums over here, these fucking prima donnas, all they wanted was high humidity, and I gave it high humidity, and it threw a fit. I gave it airflow, it bounced back, but it had lower humidity because it was moving the air around. So, you know, don't always believe what everyone tells you. Sometimes you gotta do your own research. You know what I'm saying? I want to emphasize this guy right here. This is Philodendron leinamii. It's an extremely rare plant in the wild. It is only found in a very small area in Peru at elevations of, I believe, about 1,600 feet. It's not a plant that's found around, guys. It's not a plant that just grows in your backyard. There has to be a reason that it's only found in a very, very particular part of the world. And somehow it is growing vigorously with this method. What's very interesting is that the roots are a deep red. Are you seeing that? I don't even think it wants to focus today. I think it wants to focus on the plants behind me. What makes this plant really, oh shit. But what makes this plant really spectacular is at the back of the leaf, when it comes out beautiful bubblegum pink. It's starting to harden off to more of like a pastel color, but there is a new leaf coming out. I don't know if you can see right there. Does it want to focus? I'm so blind, I can't see that far away. It's going to be as red as this caterpillar here, and then it's going to harden off to this beautiful bubblegum pink for a few weeks, and then it fades to green. Growing on this fancy piece of driftwood here, we have Philodendron El Choco Red. Fun fact, El Choco Red is not the official name of this plant. This plant was an undescribed, unnamed species found in a biodiversity hotspot, which is what the plant is named after. And it was recently given an official botanical name. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce it, but I'm just going to go out on a limb and say that El Choco Red sounds way better. I'm sorry, El Choco Red, it just sounds badass. The biodiversity hotspot I'm referring to is on the northern Pacific coast of South America and a little bit of the southern Pacific coast of Central America. This area I'm talking about is the rainforest of rainforests. This is Eden on Earth if there ever was one. You might be noticing that a lot of the moss that I am using looks green. It is not live moss. It is dead moss, or preserved moss, whatever you want to call it. The green is actually algae. Algae will inevitably grow in your moss, in your perlite, wherever there is exposure to light. Yes, algae will absorb some of the nutrients that you give your plants, but honestly, guys, it has to be such a small amount because I've never had any of my plants suffer. So I'd like to compare and contrast a couple of different growing conditions. And I have 3 anthuriums here. I have Cupullus spathum, clarinervium, and warquianum. There's generally two types of anthuriums, the glossy anthuriums and the velvet or suede anthuriums, and that has to do with the leaf texture. So here we have a glossy anthurium. I mean, it looks a little bit more matte, but you understand what I'm saying, like the texture of it, versus a clarinervium or a warquianum has kind of a velvety suede texture to it. Now, glossy slash non-velvet anthuriums, and this kind of extends to philodendron as well, are a lot hardier when it comes to low humidity. They're a lot more tolerant of low humidity. That being said, they don't like low humidity, but they're a lot more tolerant of it. These two plants I have growing without any humidity assistance. They're just growing out in the 25 to 35% humidity. And by the way, guys, this leaf came out in low humidity. This leaf came out in low humidity. We got this leaf coming out in low humidity. And this guy over here is honestly living his best life. I couldn't be prouder of this plant. It's such a beautiful plant, guys. Oh my God. By the way, the inflorescence this plant puts out is stunning. It's a hot pink, and it's like it like faces down. You know how most airoids, the spadix faces up? This one like faces down, and it's like a bright pink. It's beautiful. I cannot wait for this thing to bloom. I hope it blooms soon. Speaking of blooms, look, we got a bloom right here. Can you guys see that? I'm actually collecting the pollen from this guy, but that's a whole other video. So here we have clarinervium growing in straight up leca. Let me just can you guys even see that? Do you guys see this leaf? Oh, you see that leaf right there? Do you see how it came out a little bit deformed? So that happens when the plant becomes dehydrated. Essentially, it missed a watering while it was putting out that leaf, and yeah, it kind of got fucked up, but it is what it is. So that leads me to the conclusion that leca might not be the best for this plant. My plan is to take this out of the leca once this new leaf fully hardens off. I don't want this leaf to get dwarfed when I take it out and repot it. I'm going to put a layer of moss on top and then leave leca on the bottom. I want to gradually introduce moss to the roots. I don't want to just straight up put it all into moss because and actually, this is really important. When it comes to roots, especially airoid roots, but I would say pretty much any plant that you convert to moss or moss to dirt or leca or whatever. Roots transfer so much better from low aeration to higher aeration than they do the other way around. If I took this clarinervium and I put it right into soil, I'd probably lose a lot of roots. I'd probably introduce root rot to the plant. And the reason why that is because soil, it's just too compact in comparison to the leca that this plant is used to. So what I need to do is first introduce sphagnum moss to the roots, allow the roots to continue to grow out in that new medium, and then if I wanted to transfer to soil, I'm not going to, but if I wanted to, I could then slowly transfer the roots from the moss, then slowly to the dirt. Do you see what I'm saying, guys? We're allowing the plant to slowly acclimate to the new medium, rather than taking a water cutting and just putting it right into soil. I know some people do that. Personally, when I see people in the greenhouse, it's just like chopping off a leaf and just like throwing it in a bucket of dirt and it just pops off. I don't know how they do that. I never have success doing that. I find that when I take water roots and put them into soil, they just rot away because they're not meant for soil. There are people that do it, and kudos to you, but I find it to be very difficult, especially for somebody who's not that experienced. For a very experienced person who knows how to make that transition for a plant, all the power to you. But for us hobbyists who are just kind of, we're just doing this for fun, people. You know what I'm saying? I don't work in a greenhouse. Anyway, okay, I digress. Now that being said, when it comes to airoids in particular, but I think, again, this can also be extended to other plants because I've actually done it with other plants. If you have a plant that is in soil, the roots have been growing in soil for months, years, whatever. Provided it's not like a huge, fully mature plant, because the more mature a plant is, the less adaptable it is. Things that are epiphytic and things that are terrestrial, when you have gloriosum, for example, that I was talking about earlier, when it crawls around looking for light, looking for different areas to go. You have plants like these that are climbing up rocks and trees and all that stuff. These plants are highly adaptable. They transfer beautifully from soil to moss. And they transfer, I would say, pretty well from soil to leca. That's a little bit more of a dramatic transfer because you're going from a very compact environment for the roots to a highly aerated environment for the roots. Whereas moss is like that happy medium. I feel like this is like a science class. It's becoming like a science class. But you know what, guys? I want to create videos that talk about things that I don't see people talk about a whole lot. I see a lot of people talking about semi-hydro and things like that, but I don't see a whole lot of people doing this modified version of it where like the moss and the leca. I'm definitely not somebody that is going to say that I invented it. Because I didn't. But I feel like people are a little bit more surprised when they see that I'm growing things in jars. They're like, oh, you know. So I figured, let's make a video on it. And here we have my stunning Anthurium warqueanum. This is, hands down, the most difficult plant in my collection. I was gonna say most difficult Anthurium. It's the most difficult plant. When it comes to queens, they're pretty hard to kill, but they're even harder to keep happy. You know, they have very specific demands, and if those demands are not met, if those needs are not met, if the environment is not exactly what it wants, it doesn't adapt the best, to put it lightly. This is the first time I've had the plant hold on to two beautiful leaves. This is the new leaf right here. It's stunning. It's floppy, so it's still getting bigger. I'm gonna try not to touch it too much. I don't want to bruise it. This leaf right here, it's about 2-3 months old. Warqueanums are not the fastest of growers unless you have a greenhouse, in which case, congratulations. I wish I was you. I used to have this plant in pure leca last summer, and it didn't look bad. It just didn't look good. It would put out one beautiful leaf and then all the other leaves would go to shit. So since I've put it in this no drainage method that I'm talking about, moss on the top, again, filled to the brim with algae. Do you see that? There's grass growing in there, and we got two beautiful leaves. We got this beautiful leaf coming in right here, and this one right here that's still looking pretty sexy. This was the plant before I put it in this new container. So as you can see, this is how the plant was doing before I introduced this no drainage method. It has been doing so much better. And I'm so happy I can finally take this out of my grow tent where all the ugly hoes are, and I can put it in my cabinet. I can look at it every day. I can see the new leaf coming in. I really hope I don't drop this right now and totally fuck up my whole life, so I'm just gonna put this down. It's really such a shame because these plants look so good in baskets. You see these pendant leaves, you just see how like as a full plant that would look so beautiful in a basket. When they're in baskets, they're beautiful. Unfortunately, they're just not, like you just can't, you can't just hang it in your window. Like you have to put it in a greenhouse environment. They do need higher humidity because they are a velvet type, but what they really need is good aeration. If they had 80% humidity and stagnant air, they're gonna look like this. They're gonna look like this. If the plant has 50% humidity, but really good airflow, perfect aeration, you're gonna get leaves that look like this. There's a lot of people that I know out there who are growing these plants in 50 to 60% humidity, which is low considering these plants come from the rainforest and living their best life. Go figure! Here's an anthurium that I have actually planted in moss and then a little bit of airoid mix. I'm just trying it out. Looks so good, guys. Look at this crystallinum. Look how full it is. Don't be fooled. Like, yes, at a glance, it looks stunning, if I do say so myself. But all the new leaves are fucked. Like, they've got like fucking, it looks like a rat took a bite out of these leaves. They're just not looking their best. And the reason is because this plant has always grown in a container that had drainage. It's been growing this whole time in an orchid pot in full-on sphagnum moss. And you know, it was doing well in the cabinet, but it got too big, as you can see, so I had to take it out. And this is what happens. So you know what, guys? It is what it is. It's still a beautiful plant. Overall, it's not a plant that's struggling. It's just a plant that's not like 100%. You know what I'm saying? A plant can be happy, but not live its best life. I don't know, maybe I'm not making any sense. Here's an anthurium that's growing in a vase. Again, sphagnum moss on top, leca on the bottom. It's rooting out beautifully. This is Pendant radiatum crossed with clarinervium. I got this from Indonesia, a grower on the island of Java, or Jawa. I lovingly call it my King Java. I wanted a plant that was kind of like a Delta Force dupe. I mean, guys, look at this triangle leaf. This is insane. This is insane. This thing has only been in my care for a couple of months, guys, and it's already putting out not one, but can y'all see? You see that right there? Oh, 2 inflows at the same time! I have one last monster to show you. And if this doesn't prove to you that this method works, I don't know what will. Oh God. Okay. Oh, you know what? I'm trying to make like a dramatic entrance. But this thing is, it's like lifting a dumbbell. Oh, I gotta use my biceps, gotta use my chest muscles. Okay, there we go. And you can't see me. Oh, there I am. So, what the fuck, Jake? Oh my God. Oh. So this is, this is a philodendron. It is a hybrid of gloriosum and melanochrysum. No, it's not. Fuck you, Jake. Gloriosum and possesum. I'm like winded right now. Like most hybrids, this thing grows so fast. It is tough as nails. I get a new leaf every 3 freaking weeks. It's so big. I have to stake it using all of these sticks. And just to prove to you that I ain't lying, look at that leca on the bottom, moss on top. Again, plenty of algae in there, and this plant doesn't mind. It ain't no thing. Oh! And there we go, honey, there we go. Bitch, you're not even rooting. What the hell? So this leaf, oh my God, can I even, oh shit. So this leaf here came out a few weeks ago, and then a new leaf was coming in, and it was coming in kind of small as it opened up, and I was like, oh, thank God. You know what? It's moving a little bit away from the grow light. I thought, okay, it's getting a little bit less light, it's adapting, it's putting out a smaller leaf. This plant is not going to eat me. Well, that leaf, day by day, got bigger and bigger and bigger, because it must have heard me. And look at this, look at it. What the fuck? Femissimo! Oh my God. So yeah, that is, oh, I didn't mention what the name of this plant is. Dean McDowell, that is the name of this hybrid. Dean McDowell. Ugh, long live Dean McDowell. And there you have it, guys. We've all been lied to, guys. Plants don't need drainage holes, they just need drainage. Who knew? So thank you all for watching. I hope this video was entertaining. I hope it was educational to a point. Feel free to send it to anyone that you think might be interested in learning about this method, because I think it's great. I'm in a jungle now. I'm in my own paradise. And it's like midnight right now, by the way. It's like, it's not daytime. This is like all grow lights in my place. This is insane. So, yeah. Thank you for watching, and bye.